So you're saying that, all right, you're at this point, you're saying that, let's say you had Hank teaching his son as an individual, right? So at the same time, it's a team sport. How is he going to know how to play with his team if you're teaching him how to be a quarterback just as an individual and it's just him? It's difficult if it's not someone to play with. If it's a team sport, you need to learn collectively. Not to say that you don't give him the foundation. You do give your children that time one-on-one. But I believe that there's a balance, right? And that's just the choice that I made. It doesn't mean that it's bad because it works for me. And maybe homeschool does work for you. Like I said, I don't down anybody.
Why
But
do you
at
think
the
it
end of the
works?
day, it's my
Why does it work for you? So let me ask you the question that I ask a more specific question. What's the definition of socialization? What's that to you? What does that look like?
socialization is just how you for how I feel about it is how you interact with other human beings.
Okay, and who teaches that?
Your parents and your peers.
Your peers can't teach you how to socialize. You go to school to socialize. When do you think they socialize with their peers?
When they're in school,
When?
recess, after school activities.
Okay, so how much time you think in
Sometimes
school they're able to exhibit learning social skills?
maybe about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Okay, incorrect. Okay, lunch is 30 minutes. Recess is
Okay.
30 minutes, right? So that's an
And
hour.
then
The other
and then
time,
and then you and then now both of my children, they go to after school situations where they are socializing. So that's why I say 2 hours. If you have your children in extracurricular activities, then they'll be socializing with other children.
okay, but you learn socialization from how you like based on how you are as a parent. You're the one that teaches your kid to treat others well. You're the one that tells your kid they need to be on time for such and such. You tell your kid that they need to do the work that they're supposed to do. You tell your kid to be nice to others. You are the teacher of your kids as it relates to socialization. And I'm telling you that as a teacher, right? I'm communicating to you from a person that's in the classroom on a regular basis. The kids that have a hard time in class are the ones that parents are not teaching them how to socialize in class. So
Yeah.
I'm telling you that you have decided to push your kids off to be taught to somebody else as opposed to you being the first teacher. That's what I'm saying.
Trev, I used to, so just let me interject real quick. Trev, I used to feel the same way as you when it came, because, I got two sons. I got an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I was like, well, I wonder if homeschooling is good. Nah, they're going to be cramped in and they're going to turn into cornballs. They're going to be introverts and they ain't going to want to play. They're going to want to not deal with other kids. They need to go. And then I started doing research. I found out that studies, they've studied this. Homeschool children generally have better social skills than children that go to traditional schools. And I was blown away. And the reason why is because a lot of people they conflate private school versus public school with homeschool versus public school. Now, you have an argument between private school and public school because typically in private school, you got a lot of uppity, snotty, entitled kids. Whereas in public school, the mentality of the kids that they're around gives them better skills that will translate better in the world, right? But at home school, the reason why they said it is because kids typically have the opportunity to interact with people of all ages, backgrounds, and different interests when you're homeschooled versus being in public school. It was wild to me too, Trev. But the reality is homeschool children typically turn out better socially. I'm talking the way they interact with people, talking to people, hollering at girls, being nice to people, smiling, introducing themselves. Hey, my name is such and such, and I'm 5 years old. I'm 9 years old. And hi, what's your name? That whole social stuff turns out to be better when they're homeschooled than when they're at school, because at school they're going to be indoctrinated in the hive mentality where if they get around the wrong motherfuckers, they're not introducing themselves. They're not doing anything that's going to be wide gamut of the things that'll work out for them socially as an adult. Whereas when they're with adults, they realize, oh, I should speak to Mr. I should say hello. I should call them sir and Mr. and have manners and be able to talk to them with some respect. Whereas when I'm with them niggas on the yard, I don't necessarily do that. So that's just what it blew my mind too. I learned it 5 years ago, well, eight years ago. But I hear what you're saying, but I think what Humble Dad is trying to get people to understand, and him being in the public, and my father was with LA Unified School District for 44 years. So I had all of that. Remember, I told you guys last week I was liberal arts was my first major. I was going to be a teacher. So I learned this kind of stuff, and I was like, damn, that's crazy. I would have thought that it would have been better to send the kids to public school so they can learn how to deal with people. And that's actually not the case. It's just the opposite. It just feels like that makes sense, but it doesn't. So.
Well, not all right. There's a couple.
If you're in a disagreement with what's going on with the curricula that's going on in the schools now, that is a number one reason why you probably won't start homeschooling your kid. I'm encouraging my daughter to homeschool my granddaughter because of what's going on.
You don't want them to be inclusive and learn sex ed in fourth grade.
Yeah, and if you're not ready, that is scary. So. If you are going to send your kids to school, make sure you're overly involved. You're part of the PTA. Make sure you're at the board meetings. It's open to the public. Make sure you are overly involved and know what's going on. Make sure you're paying attention to the paperwork that they send home, because if you don't sign it, they're assuming that you're okay. You need to sign these paperwork and read what you're signing to let them know you're not willing to have your kids learn certain things or be involved in certain things or taking pictures or posting them in certain things, because they will automatically do it if you don't read what you sign and then sign the proper documentation to opt your kids out of certain things.
Yeah, and I think that's where you do it. So you have to also be very involved, right? So they need that foundation. Most of what you learn is absolutely going to come from your parents, right? I'm always going to choose a social setting. And where do you even stop? So would you say that people shouldn't go to institutions, colleges? Like where is it that you, or should they do that from home as well?
Oh yeah.
I let them, once they get to high school, I think they're established enough that they could probably start going to the public schools, high school, but the elementary age and middle school ages, I would recommend homeschooling. In my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking as, like I said, I mean, I'm also a professor, right? So like the only reason why you should be going to college is one, to network is one. Also to, if it's a profession that requires you to have a degree. All right. So, as you all know, most people that go to college and get a degree don't even operate in that degree. So it's almost a waste, as opposed to what I teach my students. I say, listen, you're not probably going to do well in college, or you're probably not going to need to go to college. You need to pick up something like a skill set, a trade, right? Because that's going to be more beneficial to you as well. And what's being learned in some colleges is a lot of things that we talk about on these platforms that we don't even like or desire for our kids to have. So I'm saying you need, if you're able to homeschool your kid, you need to do the research and see that it's better for them to do that. I'll give you another point, and I'll wrap it up like here. Okay. A lot of teachers have to pass students. Did you know that?
Say it again.
I mean, I could believe it.
Teachers have to pass students.
No child left behind. Remember?
No child left behind.
I know about that.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I know about that.
If your kid brings home a 75, they probably failed that class. Actually, if your kid brings home a 85, they may have somewhat of an understanding of the information. On their state exam, they have to make, here in Texas for sure, to pass the state exam in math, they have to make like a 30. Okay. And there are students that are not passing the state exam and they still pass them to the next grade. So so even with me giving you that information, parents don't know that, right? So even in whatever state you're living in, because people typically operate based on how Texas works, that wherever you are, they are not making a 70 on their state exam. That's not the goal. The goal is far lesser than that, and they're still moving them on. In 2020, everybody was passed to the next grade.